right, Lindsey, what's in your lens today?
We're talking about Kristi Noem. So when the Secretary of Homeland Security uses the phrase domestic terrorism, it carries enormous weight. It shapes headlines. It frames public opinion. And for families grieving a loved one, it can define how the country remembers them. Now, this week, Kristi Noem appeared before Congress for the first time since the immigration enforcement surge in Minneapolis. She was pressed by Amy Klobuchar about comments she made in the immediate aftermath of two fatal shootings involving U.S. citizens Renee Good and Alex Pretti. Here's what Senator Klobuchar asked her.
After the killings of Renee Good and Alex Pretti, when I spoke to Alex's parents, they told me that you calling him a domestic terrorist, this was directly from them, the day after he was killed, a nurse in our VA, Alex, one of the most hurtful things they could ever imagine was said by you about their son. Do you have anything you want to say to Alex Pretti's parents?
Now here's how Secretary Noem responded.
We were relying in the hours after that incident that was so horrific on information we were getting from the ground from our agents.
I just asked if you had anything you wanted to say to the parents or to the family of Renee Good after you called them domestic terrorists.
I can't even imagine what they have gone through in the loss of their son and the loss of their family members.
But how about specifically calling them domestic terrorists without any evidence of that?
Sir, ma'am, I did not call him a domestic terrorist. I said it appeared to be an incident of.
Then Republican Senator Tom Tillis didn't hold back on his feelings about Noem's overall job performance.
We just want numbers. We want 1,000 a day, 6,000 a day, 9,000 a day because numbers matter, right? No, they don't matter. Quality matters, not quantity, quality. And what we've seen is a disaster. Under your leadership, Ms. Noem, a disaster. What we've seen is innocent people getting detained that turn out are American citizens. I could talk about the culture that's been created here with Stephen Miller aiding and abetting. I heard first reports that he was the one that said it was a domestic terrorist situation where two people lost their lives in Minneapolis.
Here's where I land. Words do matter, especially when they come from top law enforcement official in the country. Labeling something, quote, domestic terrorism before investigations are complete isn't just descriptive, it's declarative. It tells the public how to feel before all the facts are known. Now, Noem has since declined multiple opportunities to directly apologize or even retract, and that has fueled bipartisan backlash. More than 160 House Democrats have supported impeachment efforts. Democratic leaders like Hakeem Jeffries have called for her firing. Senator John Fetterman and Elizabeth Warren have urged her to resign. Even Republican Senator Tom Tillis and Lisa Murkowski have publicly questioned her leadership. This isn't about politics for me. It's about accountability. If you speak too soon and it causes confusion and pain, the most human response is simple. Say you're sorry. Leadership doesn't mean never making mistakes. It means knowing when your words went too far and having humility to actually own it.
Well, you didn't play my favorite video clip from that hearing, which was Senator Kennedy, who's I just enjoy listening to him talk. He's so funny. He also went after her. Yeah, I think it goes to show that she's not particularly popular with even Republican members of the Senate. That speaks to the fact that there is internal disagreement about how effective she is in this role. There are elements within the administration, from what I understand, that find her unnecessarily showy. They don't like her or Corey Lewandowski, her chief advisor and close personal friend, and how involved he is in what's going on. And that, you know, calling, I don't know how she, if you said engage in domestic terrorism, then you're saying someone's a domestic terrorist.
Right.
And that was mistaken, so I don't know what you can do other than just say that was a mistake and I regret it.
And I think, you know, we always talk about these hearings. They're used to clip out and campaign. We understand that. But I think if even Democratic senators have talked to the family of Alex Pretti, and his family knows that immediately, in the immediate aftermath, he was labeled that way. A conversation, even she can say, I've spoken to Alex Pretti's family. that it doesn't have to happen at the Senate hearing, so it can be clipped out and used for eternity. But I think, it's the same thing with the Epstein victims that are sitting in the hearings that just want to have a conversation and say they can't get in touch. I think if a mistake of that magnitude is made, or even if you're over speaking and still investigating in that way, you should try to connect with the American citizen involved, especially in an operation that you're trying to convince the American people is the way forward for immigration. And there's some friction on the way that immigration is being implemented. Not that people want immigration reform, but the way the administration is doing it. You're the top official and you're mischaracterizing this. I think that she could have at least reached out to the family or had some dialogue to clarify her words, even if it was in private.
Senator Kennedy also spoke to her about the amount of money her office spent on basically advertising, publicity. And he talked about how it's clearly good for you, but that it's embarrassing to spend that much amount of money. And he said he just couldn't believe that President Trump was okay with that because it's an embarrassing amount of money. And why are you trying to embarrass President Trump? It was an interesting line of questioning.
And why do you think that, President Trump is protecting her in this way? My theory is that he doesn't want any, I guess what you call maybe enemies out of the second term, people he released from his
no one has left
top officials.
The cabinet yet.
Right. And we saw that's way different from the first term. We saw a lot of people leave.
Right.
So you think he's just trying to protect his crew?
I don't know. He would have no qualms firing her if he thought that was a good idea, but maybe, I don't know. I don't have any insights into what the rationale is. She might head for the door at some point. Would not surprise me if she would be the first one to head for the door. What do we say about Tulsi Gabbard, for instance, is in the cabinet, and he's doing a foreign policy that could not be more contrary to what she has advised and always it's what she left the Democratic Party over.
Right.
That she thought they were going to start a war with Iran. And here we are. So, I don't know, but we're keeping the team together for now.
Interesting times. Up next, a Democratic rising star defeating Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett for the Democratic nomination. Stay with us. We're going to talk about that.